Okay, joining us now to talk about the investigation into the Kaufman County crash is Fort Worth-based personal injury attorney Jason Stephen. Jason, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you, Teresa, and I'm very saddened to hear about the additional tragedy and the
I know.
death. Our thoughts and our prayers certainly go out to all those victims and their families.
Absolutely, a terrible situation still unfolding. We know that you've really handled several trucking-related cases. The one that folks might be most familiar with is that deadly 133-car pileup on the icy toll lanes of I-35W, happened back in 2021. So there's a lot we're still waiting to learn about Saturday's crash. But based on your experience, your expertise, what are some of the issues that investigators are trying to sift through right now?
Well, they're sifting through a lot, and they have a lot to certainly sift through. It certainly appears, it's very early, but it certainly appears that fatigue is going to be a big issue in this case. And we know from the National Transportation Safety Board that almost nearly 40% of all wrecks, serious truck wrecks, involve fatigue. And so I'm sure they're going to be looking at that very closely. They will be looking and trying to gather extensive evidence that they can pull from the truck itself. All these trucks in this day and age have what we call black box, an electronic control module that's going to have a plethora of data that's stored on it about speed, braking, when the truck started its trip, that sort of thing. And based upon the information that we've heard and learned so far about the trucking company that this gentleman was driving for, sounds like it's a fairly large trucking company with roughly, I think, 193 or 95 trucks. That's a fairly large fleet. We would certainly expect that a trucking company of that size in this day and age would have a fatigue management system in place to try and ensure their drivers are not fatigued. Most of these trucking companies likewise will have dash cameras on their vehicles, and these dash cameras are both forward facing such that they see the road and they will have recorded the events of the wreck itself. But many of these dash cameras are also driver facing, and that is, it's recording the driver. So that evidence may be very helpful to law enforcement to see when did this driver fall asleep, or if he did indeed fall asleep, had he been nodding off for a period of time. And these cameras record for an extensive period of time, many hours oftentimes. So there will be a lot of evidence there available to law enforcement. I'm sure they will also be looking at some of the electronic logs that these truckers are required to maintain to see when he started his trip, had he been driving too long, and what did the trucking company that he was driving for know or not know about all that. So there's
Jason,
a lot to dig in here.
Sure, and it's intriguing that charges were filed so quickly. He, at last account, faces 5 counts of manslaughter. Does it surprise you that those charges came about just hours after the crash?
Well, the law enforcement does not just willy-nilly, as we know, just file charges. So they must have had some very credible evidence early on. I think there's some evidence out there that's been discussed about some statements by the driver himself. And they oftentimes would have access to some of the evidence that I was talking about. They might be able to look at that very quickly. So I'm very encouraged that law enforcement is taking this tragedy so seriously. And I'm sure they're going to continue to do their due diligence to make sure that they put together a proper case.
Absolutely. Jason Stevens joining us this afternoon from your Fort Worth law office. We really appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.